This week, we're going to visit a different country, coming from last week's exploration into Panama. We're going to listen to some incredible sounds from Danilo Perez, which leads the question back to last week's episode. Y'all, what is jazz? Welcome back to the Unconnoisseurs of Jazz, everybody. For today, we get to talk about none other than Danilo Perez. I was super excited to come into Danilo for Motherland, but for a whole lot of different reasons. His time with Dizzy, his time with Wayne Shorter, just a phenomenal pianist to me. But this was new for the both of you, Danilo Perez is. And we're coming, I drew a blank when I got ready to say it in the opener. Where were we last week?
We were in Norway last
week.
With Nels Petter Molvar.
Yes. And now to Panama, bringing in the Latin Afro beats. Let's play some clips.
Let's play some clips. We're talking about the album Motherland from Danilo Perez from the year 2000. But yeah, let's hear a clip from that. Who's going first?
I will.
Okay, perfect. Do it.
You're going last. How about Panama Libre, starting at 4 minutes into the track.
It's building. Y'all will have to go listen to that.
Yeah. Well, I think I say this every week. I'm going to have to think of something different to say, but every week I say, this is typical. This section of the track is typical for what you'll hear throughout the whole album. Yeah. And if it was the first track, I would say just be prepared to see this kind of intonation, this kind of inflection, this kind of back and forth, this kind of even blending of the various artists. And what I discovered is that there are 18 different musicians playing different instruments on this album, but we can talk about that later. But I chose this track because there are so many different instruments at this point playing at one time. So
I would have picked that you picked it because of the drummer, because it highlighted a lot of the drummer who we've seen before, we've listened to before on this part of our journey.
Yeah,
Brian Blade.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Good point.
Yeah, I can tell why you picked that clip.
Yep. That's a big part of it as well.
Yep.
There's a lot to also be said at that moment when I was listening to the song earlier. You think, did we just jump off to a Pat Metheny album? Listening to the guitar sound really resonated with me on some of the Pat Metheny stuff. And of course, at that moment, you look at your phone and go, "Oh no, I'm still listening to the album." But it has those touches. It really does.
Well, and we should mention that Danilo is the piano player on this album. And like Dad said, there are 18 other musicians. We could read through the names, but I just suggest that you guys go do the research on your own.
I'll put a slide up throughout the episode with the different names on it.
Perfect. That's a great idea. But yeah, Danilo is on the piano, and then of course Brian Blade on the drums, who we've seen before and discussed before. So he kind of holds a special place in my heart. So that was a great clip, Dad. It really was. It was a great clip.
Good.
All right, Drew, what do you got?
Well, all week you look at it and you just think, first of all, he's Panamanian roots. Played with Dizzy and worked with the UN. Was it the UN orchestra, the Global National Network? So Danilo had been encouraged throughout his time really to let those roots shine. I looked into the Panamanian beats. What are they referring to? And of course, it's the cross blend between Central America and the Afro beats, which I really began to dig into. So I wanted to hear from part two, and I'm just going to open it up for the first minute, Suite for the Americas, part two. And I think it reflects a lot more of the sound of the album, although Dad's clip really does kind of incorporate everything of the album. You're going to hear a little bit of everything. So I'm going to start at 1 minute. For me, the congos and the rhythm in the background was a true representation of what it was. He went really chill on the piano on the front side of things, but in the background, if you're listening to the bass line, if you're listening to everything that's going on, there it is. That is a lot of the rhythm, the 1-2 beat of the bonita. Or the style of the music of Panama. So there's a lot of 1-2 that it feels like in there, and you can start to feel a cha-cha breaking out. You kind of want to start to dance to it. I'm not going to do it for you, but you could.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We do the cha-cha.
I do the cha-cha like a sissy girl. I like a do the cha-cha.
You funny.
Yeah. That's a great clip. And I'm glad that you could focus on the congas back there, because all I could concentrate on was the bass line and the piano. And those two are working so well together. He's just running that bass line, boom, 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 boom. It's like you said, it makes you want to get up and dance a little bit. And then Danilo's just laying the chords down on the piano and not doing too much, but doing a lot. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Oh, this is a great clip.
Less is more.
Yeah.
Matt, you wanted to hear a whole song.
Yeah, I get to pick a whole song tonight. So my song is the final song on the album. It's song number 13. The name of the song is And Then. It's a 1-minute solo. All we're going to hear is Danilo. So go ahead and play that. he puts the cap on the end of the of. I just wanted to highlight. That's all. I just wanted to highlight Danilo, and what a beautiful piece. Listening to the song for whatever reason takes me back to childhood, sitting and listening to mom play or to Judy Martin play, how they could just whip anything out on the piano, and it kind of puts you at ease and at awe that they can do it so effortlessly. It reminds me of Brad, how effortless Brad is on the piano, and I'm a huge Brad Mehldau fan, and I think we all three are. But and we've discussed some great piano players, but this style right there for me, that's butter.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
so. What did you think, Dad?
I liked it. That part I really, really liked. There was a great flow to it. And like you said, it highlighted the piano playing of Danilo. So
It's a flex on him. What his real range of playing is and can be. That's what I really found most inspiring about the album is you do get a sample of all of his abilities. And there's others like The Journey from '94. It's a different style of composing. It's a different style of arranging. That's the one thing I did do this week a lot of. I gorged on a lot of his music. I wanted to hear what he is really, as a pianist, capable of, and as a composer, what he's capable of. And I keep coming back to the later Wayne Shorter. And I love Wayne. But I also found a lot of inspiration in his music with this. And that Cuban style music is just, So Danilo hit the sweet spot right in between. Your teacher was Bruce Lee and Yoda.
You were looking forward to getting to Danilo for a few weeks now.
Oh, yeah.
And I understand why now. And I did not preview any of Danilo's music before Tuesday when I started listening to it. So, coming into 6 days with Danilo is enough to scratch the surface, but still not really dig in
Yeah.
enough. Let's put it that way. So, Dad, what do you think? 6 days enough to listen to Danilo?
that was plenty. Yeah,
Okay.
just my own opinion. That was plenty. I did listen to a couple other pieces, but this album, yeah, we'll talk about that, I'm sure.
All right. Well, we've got some information coming up, and you've heard me say it before, and I'm going to say it again until we're done with this journey. Whatever you do, do it to jazz. You're going to hear in just a little while our discussion, how much we actually listen to jazz all week long, and it's a journey that we took 111 started 111 weeks ago, and we have not looked back one bit. We are on the journey using this part of our journey anyways. We're using the list from Nate Chinen. The book is Playing Changes, Jazz for the New Century. He's got it broken down into several different years, and starting with the year 2000. So far we've covered Jim Black's Alas No Axis, Brian Blade Fellowship, Perceptual, Kurt Elling, Live in Chicago, and last week we covered Nils Petter Molvar, the album Solid Ether. Of course, this week we are talking about Danilo Perez. The album is Motherland. The book is available at your local bookstore and Amazon.com. We are not affiliated with Nate. These are our own opinions. We're just using his list for our journey in jazz. I put a picture of the artwork on the slide here. It's just okay with me. I don't have much to say about the artwork for the album Motherland. It's just okay. Did you research the bridge or anything? Do you know where he's standing?
I didn't. There's an element I think that we're coming into, not only is it the new music, it's a new time period for what is drawing the attention of others. And a standard picture with him standing there in front of the bridge, and I'm guessing there's a significance to it. It's just a photograph.
Okay.
Blue Note would have had other artwork. We talked about a lot of that through Mingus We looked at Dave Brubeck, Time Out. But I think that times have changed. Not only the music that we listen to and call jazz, or world music in this case, but also the covers. And that's kind of what I looked at.
Yeah, me too.
See, I have a almost completely different perspective because I really, really like this album cover. The blue background, the bridge, the structure of the bridge is so fantastic. The suspension of it all, and I didn't research it to find out where it was located, but there's so many beautiful bridges. That took me back to the Verrazano Bridge from Staten Island into Brooklyn or Manhattan, and we've been on that just a couple times. So I really, really appreciate this and him standing there in black. Yeah, he stands out very prominently.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like the description. It's not that I dislike the artwork.
Yeah.
It's just that it doesn't stir me. Let's put it that way. If I was judging the album based on the artwork, which I laugh all the time. Don't judge a book by its cover. Don't judge an album by its cover either. So dig in and obviously listen. I did put a brief bio up here, though. A few facts that I found out about Dinello this week. Dinello uses music as a multi-dimensional bridge between people. Maybe that's why he's got a bridge on the album. The music is his bridge, between people. Multi-dimensional was the word that they used that I got this quote from. Multicultural may be a better term. Music as a multicultural bridge between people, because he is merging the jazz and the Panamanian rhythms and stuff together. So Dinello has won a lot of awards. I just put more than 25 because I couldn't list them all. I can read a few if you want, but he's got a ton of awards that he's won over the years. He does have 10 commissioned works. And of course, when you commission a work, someone pays you to write the music for a specific era or a specific time or a specific thing that they're doing. I found that fascinating. I think an artist, a painter, he'd be lucky to get 1 or 2 commissions in his career. And Dinello has 10 commissions. So, I just found it interesting. So I wanted to highlight that on the information here.
The one that stood out to me, Matt, is the UNESCO Artist for Peace in 2012. That was a big deal to me to stand out, and that takes me to this. I'm going to backtrack a little bit, whoop, whop, beep, and I'm going to say that is the Bridge of America in Panama City.
Oh,
so yes, it is historically significant to his music.
Okay.
Motherland celebrates the diversity and the underlining commonalities of music in a new world. It is emphasized by the cover photo, which shows Perez in front of the elegant Bridge of the Americas at the Panama Canal.
Oh, very cool.
So now we know the rest of the story.
Yeah, that's
like
good.
Paul Harvey. Moving right along.
I love it. He has 12 albums as a leader and then many, many more as sideman. I mean, again, the list is very long and distinguished, a sideman work from Dinello, but I found 12 albums. And again, that's nothing to shake a stick at. That's it's 12 hours of listening if you're going to listen to it all in one go. But this is the album. This is the 5th album. Motherland is the 5th album released as his leader. So it's kind of almost right in the middle of the albums that he has released. So it was fun to go back and listen to a few of his earlier ones. It's fun to go forward and listen to a few of his later ones just to see how he either progresses with his style. And I did that this week. So I had a lot of fun listening to Dinello. I found a quote from Dinello, and he was talking about his mentor, Wayne Shorter. And I wanted to bring this up because I knew, Drew, you would talk forever about Wayne Shorter. But this is Dinello talking about Wayne. His music for me was teaching us it was constantly changing. He was always showing representing ideas to us and cultivating our minds always, every second.
It takes me back to the plug nickel. I remember listening to Miles Davis of Plug Nickel when they were teasing before they got on stage. We're not going to tell him, but we're not going to play these the way we used to. And thus the Plug Nickel becomes an iconic set from jazz history. If you play it like you've always played it, you're going to get the same results. Why don't you play it a little bit different? Why don't you rethink this? What would it sound like if instead of playing a low B on that, you hit a D on it? Well, it's part of the chord structure, so it might harmonize. And thus, the music changes, and you with it. How's the old statement, you never step in the same river twice?
I got to tell you, I was watching a TV program today earlier, and there was a quote on there that fits with this perfectly. I was watching a new episode of Star Trek Academy, with Starfleet Academy, which is a new Star Trek show or whatever. But the quote that I wrote down from the show was, "Progress is impossible without change." And it fit our discussion tonight because it's not that I hate change, but this change into the 2000 category of jazz I've struggled with. And I told you earlier, I'm always just picking at it. I want to find something wrong with it because it's not what I'm comfortable with. It's not the 50s and 60s and 70s bop and bebop jazz music that I love. And so I'm constantly picking at it. And I got to remember, progress is impossible without change. So it's going to be my new mantra for all of the rest of this journey. Progress is impossible without change. And so changing my mental attitude and thinking, it's different jazz, but it's still cool jazz.
I heard somebody say years ago, there's only two groups of people who like change: cashiers and babies. Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But again, we finished the top 100, and I'm in love with every single one of those artists because they were new and exciting and fresh, and I'm struggling to get into this style of jazz. So I wrote it down mostly for me. That progress is impossible without change, and that's, again, I think that's what Dinello is talking about from Wayne Shorter. You got to be willing to change in order to progress.
Cultivating our minds.
Yes.
Yeah. Are we, and Dad, he's referring to a call earlier I had to make. I hadn't heard his voice since last Monday. And I'm used to talking at least one additional day, and we don't do our Tuesday morning conversations anymore. We're talking about new music, so there's nothing to catch up on. So I just out of the blue called him, and he confessed he's really struggled with it. And to me, I love this because it's the new stuff, but it is cultivating my mind. What has jazz become? And it starts with your question last week, Dad. What is jazz?
Mm-hmm.
And how do we really define that from that standpoint? And I read an article today because I was stuck reading the article again that Matt had sent to us this week, and I'll put that link in the description below. But is it classified as world music, or is this jazz today? And in my week in music, I'm going to talk about another artist and album or musicians that I got to listen to. But I think that Motherland reflects world music. The roots of the Panamanian, which does reflect the Afro-Cuban, which does reflect the Central America, South and Central. So what is jazz coming into 2000 and newer?
Well,
and are we ready for it?
And we did mention on our discussion earlier, Kamasi Washington and the changing of the guard. You get up to the guard shack to change the guard, and there's no one standing there guarding the gates. And so jazz opens up into a much wider category, which is okay. It's different. It's different. And I gotta learn to accept that. So
I like rhythm. We were talking on our way to school this morning. We've had 2 weeks off. I haven't had any school for 2 weeks. And Lily said, "What do you look forward to?" And I said, back to normal. And she goes, I knew you were going to say that. I just knew you were going to say that. But it's important. We like our comfort zone, which is why I think Dad's comment about only two people like change. Babies like to get changed. They're tired of being in that diaper. So,
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, I just want to say thank you for letting me provide that little bit of information about Danilo. You can check us out on our website, theunconnoisseur.com. We also have a radio channel, WTUR.org, which is streaming 24 hours a day from your browser or smartphone. We do have a merch store at theunconnoisseur.com. Just look for the merchandise link right on the top right-hand corner. And if you're interested in listening to our podcast as well, you can go to Amazon, iTunes, and Spotify. Just tell them that you would like to hear the Unconnoisseur podcast. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button on this video, and also hit that bell so you get notified when all of our new episodes come out. Cool.
perfect.
Okay.
So, go ahead, Matt.
I was just going to say, I'm warmed up, so just let me start. I made a lot of notes both on my computer and on my notepad this week. And I have to admit, I was looking for something wrong with this album. So please bear with me. Let me get through my notes, and then I'll just give you my score. I wrote, it's not basic, but it's simple and elegant. And I felt like there wasn't a lot of layers to the music. It was kind of one or two layers. You got the bass and the guitars and the piano going. For me, it was I had to struggle the first couple of times listening, and these are my first time listening notes. Okay, first time through. It's simple and elegant, but there's not a lot of layers. It wasn't until later in the week when I started researching Brian or Danilo and realized that he played with Brian that I thought to myself, oh, well, a friend of my friend is my friend and an enemy of my enemy is my enemy. So somebody that plays with someone I like, I'm going to like, right? I had to change my mindset a little bit this week. And when I started reading about Danilo, he was the founder of the Berklee Global Jazz Institute. Berklee came to him and said, hey, we want to start this jazz institute. Will you do it? And he started it. He started the Berklee Global Jazz Institute. I found that very cool. You know, if he's a good enough musician where they're going to come to him and ask him to start the institute, that kind of blew me away. Realizing that he played with Brian Blade, again, blew me away. And then with Wayne Shorter. So what do? I start listening to Wayne Shorter stuff, Alegria. Yeah, here, twist my arm to listen to Alegria this week, right? I wanted to hear, and it's funny because when I listen to Wayne Shorter, I want to hear Wayne Shorter. But when you turn it around and say, hey, I want to listen to Alegria for Danilo, you listen to it completely differently than if it's, oh, hey, I want to hear Wayne Shorter. All you hear is Wayne Shorter if you want to hear Wayne Shorter. But if you say, I want to hear Danilo, it changes the way that you listen to the music. So, that's pretty much where I'm at. I couldn't find many things wrong with the album. So, Dad, what about you?
Well, then, honestly, the first time, the second time, the fourth time, the fifth time, I was not sold on this album. I don't know what it was, whether it's just me internally, whether this album did not appeal to me at all. I've listened to it again today. I could have changed my score a little bit higher, but I just couldn't track with it. I couldn't follow it. It just sounded like, at first, it sounded like he was pounding on the piano, just hammering away. And at the same time, I was listening to our new music pianist, and there was a completely different softness, a loudness to the two different artists, the two different pianists. And so I did not care for it. It did not stir me. It's interesting that none of us played any tracks with the vocals.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up, because that was one of the other things that bugged me was the vocalese on the album.
Someone described the vocals as chants. There was some chants ringing throughout some of the vocals, and I guess I was not into chanting, so I was not completely repulsed by it, but I kept telling Mom as we listened to it, as I recounted it, I said, I just don't like this, and I couldn't feel it at all. So again, I'm saying I am definitely an unconnoisseur. The more I read about him today, and I listened to some of his other stuff, which we'll talk about, I grew a little bit more fond of this album. Okay.
Yeah, that happened to me too.
Yeah.
Drew, what about you?
See, I actually found it moving, and I'm not sure if it is because of the piano. That's one thing to me that always stands out. I love a good pianist, and Dinello is one of those. He is definitely not Art Tatum. He is definitely not Ahmad Jamal. He has the sounds and style of Jeremy Ledbetter. He does have some Brad Maldot to him, but I think that his relaxed style of playing is something that we don't hear a lot. And that's what I appreciated. The other thing is from the vocals, one of the things that I got was Astrid from the girl of Ipanema. Is I was listening to it with that in mind as well, and very few songs had a vocalese, but that's what I was thinking about. And I'd heard some other female vocals on some of other albums from Dinello, and that's what I kept thinking is it's the Brazilian music of Girl from Ipanema. And I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. I didn't hate it, but I'm not going to pick a highlight reel from that. I really am not. We're not big vocal jazz people anyways. Listening to it over several times. Of course, I did the same thing last week as I did the week before. When we were done, I put it in my ears on the way down the back road. So I enjoyed 30 minutes of drive time, 40 minutes of drive time before I even got Lily in the car. So I'd almost gone through the album by then. I did come into it with a different appreciation as well because I've loved Dinello. I've watched it now probably 8 times through. Yes, it's a 3-part series called Zero Gravity on Wayne Shorter, but Dinello plays in that, and he plays a part in Wayne Shorter's life in that. So I really did. I knew what I was getting into, and that changes my perspective. The other thing, Matt, you and I talked about ad nauseum today was it is new music. This is no longer the 1950s jazz, and in that we struggle with what the terminology is. Even at this point in time, Roland Kirk couldn't explain this off as black classical music.
No,
because we're bringing in a Central America theme. And I think that throughout it was fun to me, almost as if a breath of fresh air between bebop albums. And
we did talk about it a little bit last week too, about expanding jazz to the Norwegian culture. And so Nils Petter picked up what he thought it was and ran with it. Dinello picks up his own culture in this album, especially, and he ran with it. So I can appreciate that.
Yep.
I can.
Now, I went ahead and put a score down only as of this afternoon. It took me all week to figure out what clip. Up until like 5 minutes before we hit record, it took me that long to figure out what clip I wanted. But it took me a good week to really think about where I wanted to rate this at. And I did have to step back and go, I can't rate the whole body of work. I really do have to rate this body of work. There were some other albums, and I just want to read those real quick. 93, I listened to the debut album, Dinello Perez. I gave that a decent score. Panamunk, when he get a tribute to Thelonious Monk, banging. Of course, this one falls in 2000. 03, he had an album called Till Dawn. Then in 08, Across the Crystal Sea. And then the last one that I did was Children of Light. Then, of course, Footprints Live, which was just an incredible one. But on all of these, I just kept coming back to the same thing. How do you rate it? I ended up with a score of 8.5 for Motherland. As excited as I was to listen to it and excited to know that I did a deep dive on it, I couldn't go any. I could probably get to a 9 if persuaded, but I think 8.5 for me is where I landed. It will be an album that I will go back to because of who he is and to listen to the design of his musical abilities. And I say design because musically there's a lot of harmony that he plays in there that you don't catch unless you really know what you're listening for. And that's the Wayne Shorter to me. So that was my rating. What about y'all?
Okay. Well, I did the 2024 Lumen album, which is a big band album. And the note that I made right away was wow, exclamation, exclamation, exclamation. He also on that album does the Suite for the Americas in big band style. And I absolutely loved it. I mean, I wrote it's better than the original on the Motherland album. So the 2024 Lumen big band album. I did the 2015 Children of the Night album. I liked it. It was okay. And then, of course, later this week, later in the week last week is when I started doing the Wayne Shorter stuff. So I did Without a Net, the live album from Wayne Shorter where Danilo and them play. It's an hour and 28 minutes. It's a long album, long live album. But again, that's got Shorter and Brian Blade playing the drums. Of course, today I did Allegria. Yeah, with Wayne and Danilo.
Yep.
I mean, twist my arm to listen to that. Of course, because Brian's been in the discussion a lot in the last few weeks anyways, I went ahead and did Perceptual, Brian Blade's album that we covered. I listened to that again this week. You know, I find that once we're done with an artist, I'm almost missing them the next week. And so I'll sometimes go back and listen to them again just because I miss it, you know. Yeah. And I think probably this week I will as well. So my score, much like yours, I had a hard time scoring, and we texted a little bit late last week and this weekend about scoring and stuff. But I came up with an 8 for a score for me. It's a comfortable. I love score. It. Yeah, it's a comfortable score. And again, we are judging just Motherland, the album Motherland. If I were rating Danilo on his entire body of work and everything he's done and the awards, I mean, he'd have to be an 11 out of 10. But Motherland for me, it's not that I hated it, and I probably will come back to it at some point. Is it recognizable? To me, I think a few of the songs are very recognizable. Some of them I would have to really work at getting Danilo Perez out of the music. You know what I mean? Suite for Americas, I would know right away it was Danilo, but some of the other songs I wouldn't be able to guess. So it is recognizable for me. So
I think the fun part will be in the next year. How many of these albums we go, oh yeah, that's definitely Danilo. We can hear that in his music. Oh yeah, that song is. We didn't think we'd ever be able to pick out Blue Train. I didn't ever think I'd be able to be like, oh yeah, that's Clifford Brown playing the trumpet in the background, or oh, that's a Roy Hargrove tune. You just don't think about it, and then a year later we're like, oh yeah, Thomas Stanko all the way, baby.
And I think it's harder for a piano player. Now, you know, you hear a Monk song, you know it's Monk because of his style, the banging and the dissonant notes, and you can pretty much pick out a Monk tune. But when it comes to Brad Mehldau or, you know, Danilo, their styles are so similar. They have to sound alike because
you only got 88 keys on a keyboard, baby.
I know, but again, their styles are so similar that for me anyways, it would be hard to pick Danilo as opposed to Brad if you didn't know who was playing on the album. Dad, what do you got?
My rating, again, this album did not stir me, but like you guys, I did listen to Children of the Light. I did listen to I think the whole album Panamunk. I did that today. It was not my style. Okay. And I said over and over again, yes, but this is not my style. Yes, but the awareness, I might need some clarification on how to think through the awareness part of our criteria. Emotionally, did I say the vocals? They distracted me from what was really going on, and then I read chants, and I said earlier, chants don't do much for me. I can think of the Gregorian chants, and someone told me years ago that the Amish, they just chant. They have no melody, no nothing. It's just real flat chanting kind of music. But on this album, I rated it at a 6.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't hate it.
Yeah.
I really don't. I don't hate it. I wasn't afraid that you were going to rate it real low. It's a little lower than I anticipated you'd given it, but
Yeah.
I don't hate it. It's okay.
Yeah. It just didn't stir me like some of his other work did. And now as you guys talk about it more and more, I could go back to it. I'm sure if I went back to it and listened more, I listened to it intently, except that initially the first several times it just turned me off.
Okay.
I couldn't track with it.
Well, and like I said, I was in a funky mood this week, and so I was trying to pick it apart from the first time I listened to it.
Dad, I want to, I'm going to interrupt you, Matt, because I know where your train of thought's going, and I'm going to follow that. But for the awareness, it's hard when it is all composed. There wasn't a whole lot of improvisation. There wasn't a whole lot of free play in this. It was, here's the music. And so it's tough for a soloist, for example, to pick up and go, oh, that was a cool riff you threw down. I'm going to use that in my solo. So it's tough. Now the awareness comes in. How can you play this like everybody has a voice and we're all going to sing together? So that awareness is tough. But yeah, and then Matt, I'm going to flip it back over to you because I know where you're finning to head, or at least I think.
Okay, tell me where.
You were just saying that your week has been distracting anyways. You were going to start with, I'm going to give it a 0.
Oh,
I'm going to give it a 0, and then I'm going to find the good
work my
stuff
way
from
up
there.
Yeah. And again, I'm so glad we had it. It wasn't a private discussion, but we had a discussion today that really helped me. Instead of starting at a 0, I'm probably going to start at a 10. And every week coming up, I'm going to start it at a 10 and kind of work my way back to,
These are the things that we don't know. Well, that thing I didn't care for. I'm going to knock out a point for that, and then by the end of the week, you can go, were those relevant knocks on the album? I listened. One of the albums I did listen to was Dizzy Gillespie. It was the United Nations Orchestra big band arrangements, and I tell you, in the first song, Diz was screwing up the horn like nobody's business. You expect proper intonation, and when he plays hard and fast and loud, you expect it clear, but that's not the Dizzy from 1990. He was flubbing everything. Well, am I going to count it as a bad score because Dizzy's playing like crap? Man was 80 years old then. I give him some credit. So yeah, we can knock down points, but are they justifiable points coming off? Right. The positive aspect is we are getting into new music, and it is going to start to blend what we expect. I can't all be Wynton Marsalis. There's straight jazz, everything else is crap.
Yeah,
I won't say that that's how he viewed it, but I'm going to put this to the forefront and call 1950s jazz the only true black classical music. Everything outside of that is just not jazz. And I don't want to be that snob.
No.
I do want to approach the new albums, the new music with an open mind. But tell me, Dad, what has your week been like?
In
As you
terms,
listen to this, what has persuaded you or swayed you one way or the other? Tell me
you mean
about your week.
in terms of music?
Tell me
I
about your
had,
week. Yeah.
what's that?
Tell me about your week.
I had a variety of music all week long. Um, I went back to Minster, and I listened to an album, Minster in Berlin.
Oh, yeah.
I listened to Brubeck Time In album,
Time out.
which no, he's
Oh, time in. Yes. Yeah.
Time In. Yeah, Time Out, Time In. Good heavens. The again Minster with the big band Get Up, which I thoroughly enjoyed. There was something, the new quartet live at Pierre Boulez or something, which I don't really remember much about that, but I thought I'd check it out. And of course, like you said earlier, two of the Perez's albums with Panamunk and Children of Light, Children of the Light or Children of Light. So that's been my music for this past week, as well as I think you guys will appreciate. I was listening to an album by Mark Cohn.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I listened to that through the whole piece. And good heavens, you sent that to me.
Long time ago.
Yeah, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So I have that on my computer, so I could listen to it on my computer.
Walking in Memphis is still one of my favorite songs.
Yeah, yep. So that's been my week in music. So it's been a variety of music.
Good.
Yeah.
Good deal. Well, I stayed with Danilo. I listed the 2024 album, Children of the Light as well. I did shorter with Danilo with Allegra.
It's all right. I need Allegra because the cedar is high here in Austin, Texas. So I need some Allegra.
Allegria. Sorry, I messed it up. I don't know. There's just probably so much other jazz that I listen to that I couldn't name them all. Yeah, it's been a great week. It really has. I got to watch Kendra and I got to watch Keaton play hockey again Saturday night. It was the alumni game. So the Fort Wayne Vipers alumni versus the high school team. And it was fun being back at the rink, seeing some of our old friends and hockey parents that we spent so much time with. Watching Keaton play hockey again was a ton of fun. We got breakfast together at the VFW Saturday morning, so that's always a highlight in my week. Unfortunately, I missed Three Rivers Big Band, going to see them live, but there's always next month. So otherwise, it was a good week for me.
Yeah, I guess you cut short about Keaton and knocking some big kid.
Yeah, it's designed to be a fun game. Of course, they're trying to score goals, but they're out there mostly to have fun. When Keaton was in high school, he weighed maybe 150, 155, and so he was a scrawny little kid on the ice. He no longer weighs 150 or 155. He's now at 220 or 225, and so you playing against there was a 6'4" kid on the high school team, and he's a bigger kid anyways, and so him and Keaton were really, really having fun, kind of hitting each other, hockey hits, and then Keaton hit him one time, slammed him against the board really hard. The kid, it was right in front of us too, and the kid laid on the ice and put his feet up on the glass, and he was kicking his feet all over. It was funny. It's fun to watch. Yeah, it's fun because Keaton never really would hit in high school hockey. He was
Never.
He was the one to avoid the hit, skate away, or just stay away from all that contact. But it's fun to see him not afraid of it. So
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun to watch him play. A lot of fun.
That is cool.
What about you? What's your weekend?
We've had a good week. We just finished up spring break, and the week before was work experience. So Lily was at work doing some volunteer stuff essentially, and then spring break, I had a couple of senior portraits to get done, a couple of video projects I'm trying to knock out as well. It's been a good week. Of course, being in front of a monitor here editing has given me a lot of time with a lot of music. So I've appreciated a little bit more, which is how I got through so much Danilo. One of the albums that I didn't mention, of course, after finishing up the episode, I did this, and you mentioned Gravity last week, Jeremy Ledbetter Gravity. So, of course, I put that in right away. And then
That's a staple in my ear. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't even have to ask me if I'm listening to Gravity.
it's getting to be an earwig. I'm going to keep putting it
Uh-huh.
on over and over again, and that started this week because you mentioned it. Thursday night at Central Market of all places. Y'all have Central Markets? I don't think you do. It's Central Market is your organic, not quite Whole Foods, but Central Market's got some pretty premium stuff. The North location has a great deli, so you can get all the hot, fresh food that you want, and then grocery shop. But they have a spring series music out on their back porch, and of course, we've been going through South by Southwest, so a lot of bigger names have coming into town. Thursday night, I had a senior portrait, and as soon as we wrapped up, Lily and I headed out to listen to Morale Coryell, the son of famed guitarist Larry Coryell. So Morale is touring, and one of his stops is Austin. He uses local talent for all of his music. So whenever he lands in a town, he'll just put a band together, and that's his performances. Joe Morales was playing with him, and famed Ernie DeWawa, the drummer. I didn't recognize the bass player, but to have him playing some old school blues music is super cool, and I love that. The following night, on a Friday night, at Central Market North, was none other than the Atlas Mayor, who we had covered a couple of weeks ago, the 2025 Downbeat Magazine noteworthy album, Palindromial.
Yes.
And so Atlas Mayor is playing at Central Market. So I went and caught 2 hours of their 2.5 hour playtime. It is
Wow.
so stinking cool to see them play live. And it's a back patio is essentially what it is. Enough room for about 100 people max. And it was packed. There's kids dancing in the front. There's people grocery shopping, just checking out the music. But most everybody is there for them. Super cool to see them play live. Just so stinking cool. And
I'm so jealous.
they tour the world playing. So for them, world music is their category. I wouldn't tag them as jazz. That's the other part about Danilo. And that brings me to world music. We got a couple of albums coming up in front of us about new music. I listened to this album, Dad. So, old man, what is new in music?
Okay.
What's new?
I'd like to tell you, and I'd like to recommend this album to everyone. It's Sullivan Fortner, and it's called Southern Nights. And he's a pianist, and to me, he's just about the opposite of Perez, because to me, plays soft. His music flows. He's not rushed. It's easy to listen to. And there's Peter Washington playing bass and Marcus Gilmore on drums. And All About Jazz says this, that Sullivan sets out to capture lightning in a bottle and succeeds with radiant charm. That's what you'll find when you listen to Southern Nights by Sullivan Fortner. And probably this week I listened to this album more than I did Perez.
No kidding.
Just had a much better reaction, much calmer, much more soothing. When things change, this album just brought me back to some level of comfort. So,
Well, I will say I listened to it several times as well, and
Yeah.
it was fun to listen to because you get a different you get the New Orleans style jazz in this album. You really do. I mean, Sullivan, he's playing. These are all New Orleans musicians and tunes, anyways. And I really felt like he reminded me of Harry Connick Jr. You know, Harry, the same style of piano playing on Sullivan Fortner's album is what I remember about Harry Connick. It's just easy going. There's no hurry. We're going to get there when we get there, and you're all going to have a good time with us. So, yeah, that's a great pick, Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Glad you like it.
So go check out Sullivan Fortner, the album Southern Nights.
Right.
Now, as we come to a conclusion, you know, we're moving these things around so we can talk about all the great music that we've got, all the great music that we're finding on our next album for the list from Nate Chinnon. We get to, do you want to do it, Matt? Do you want me to do it?
No, go right ahead, please.
We get to Mr. David Sanchez, because I'm on the roll about world music. He is going to take us to Puerto Rico. And the album that this week is David Sanchez, Malaza. And I was just reading about this a moment ago. Malaza, or as we say in English, molasses. A tip of the hat to the sugar cane and the industry there. So David Sanchez, saxophone player. This is an album deeply rooted in Puerto Rican bamba, piana, and Caribbean rhythms. So it almost sounds like we're coming right back to the Panamanian of Danilo Perez. But I'm looking at David Sanchez saying Daniel. So this could be a new spin, but it looks like a tenor sax in his hand on the album cover that's on screen right now.
Yep.
So it could be pretty exciting. Now it says personnel features Sanchez, alto saxophonist Miguel Zenon, and pianist Edsel Gomez, bassist Hans Glossignig, and then drummers Adam Cruz, Antonio Sanchez, with percussionist Pernell Saturino. Sorry for sloshing all those names around. We'll get them better next time. But David Sanchez, 8 songs long, 1 hour of total music on the Sony Music label. So
All right.
let's go shake our booties to another Latin rhythm.
Put it in your ear and join us next week for our discussion.
Welcome. You're welcome to join us, please.
Absolutely.
I'm not even saying you're welcome. I'm saying you will join us. Come with us.
Yep.
Come with and Matt, I think that goes back to what we said before, though. We are into new music. And so we're experiencing jazz now from the 2000 and newer. And those lines get smeared. What is jazz? When we really start to think about world music and the accessibility. And I would say that. In the 50s, I don't think we would have been gorging on Danilo Perez's music because we get one album at a time. And would we have gotten it here in the States if it really was a Central American musician? Would we have picked up those inspirations except for whatever came over on the boat into New Orleans and blended? So I think it's a fun time for us to look at what Kamasi Washington and the Changing of the Guards was about. We were watching past and now present hit right in the middle. So, yeah, join us for David Sanchez, Molasses.
Hey, and if you have any comments that you'd like to leave us on any of the albums that we discussed tonight, please feel free. Again, we are unconnoisseurs. We're not professional musicians. We're not music critics. We are just on this journey to discover some new jazz music. So if you got any problems with anything we said tonight, I know Ian, he's going to leave a comment on something that I messed up.
We've missed something, I'm sure, Ian.
But yeah, Ian, find something wrong with this episode.
But what I do know is that I'm stuck with two wing nuts. We're not pros. They're not pros. Ding dongs.
I'm going to say it anyway. Y'all come back now, you hear?
All right. Peace out. Have a great week.
Bye, y'all.
Wing nut.